Story 1. There are 2 vacant congressional seats in Florida. Republicans have 218 seats and Democrats have 215. If we gain those 2 seats, we can keep the House gridlocked. Republicans could only risk losing 1 or 2 votes, which is easy to overcome. The seats were filled by Matt Gaetz and the current National Security Advisor. The elections are a month from today. Story 2. You can support Ukraine through St. Javelin and other verified organizations on their website. For example, if you want to help provide tactical medical supplies, you can do so. Story 3. Organize yourselves into unions and neighborhood communities in any way you can. Create strong groups that cannot be ignored. Protest, join other groups, and expand your efforts. Establish a national workers' movement and pressure your government through the sheer fear of the masses. If they do not respond, replace them with a government that will. There is a reason why American companies fear unions. They understand their strength and potential power. It is challenging, but it is the only way for our voices, unmediated by lobbyists, to be heard. The top institutions in the United States have already been taken over by lobbyists. We cannot defeat them in a game where the rules change according to the will of the wealthy. If you want to help organize and learn about the upcoming protest, a suggestion was made to join the community. There are also resources available for effective organization. Story 4. Donate to Ukraine. Call your representatives to express your support for Ukraine, and let them know you will not vote for any politician who does not support it. Make them aware of the consequences for their positions if they lack support for Ukraine. Volunteer to assist Ukraine. Impact Donald Trump and J.D. Vance financially. Boycott their businesses, and if possible, organize a protest to physically prevent their businesses and those who support them from attracting customers. Story 5. Organize. Form action groups in your community. Join an existing one. Call your congressional representatives. Donate directly to Ukraine. There are many ways to lend aid, and each is an important piece of the puzzle. What you shouldn't do is nothing. Story 6. For a more recent example, observe what the Greek people are doing in response to a train crash that occurred 2 years ago. Instead of posting on social media and issuing apologies, they are taking to the streets with mass strikes and protests to make their voices heard in real life. Story 7. Putin is a global problem. What happened to America can happen anywhere. Support Ukraine. Story 8. I am just curious. I thought that the people who elected Trump were into nationalism. Are they still okay with Trump showing such subservience to Putin? Story 9. Call your representatives and urge them to support Ukraine. Express your embarrassment at having this person as president and make it clear that you will not vote for them unless they take a stand. They need to understand that the general population is against him, which may encourage them to speak out. Many representatives support him only because they believe their jobs are at risk. Story 10. You can get out and protest with the rest of us. You can also support Ukrainian businesses, send money directly to Ukraine, and boycott businesses that support Republicans. Story 11. I have been purchasing products from a small business in Kiev. This morning, I placed an order with a note stating that I do not agree with this administration and how they have aligned with a dictator. It may not be much, but I hope that the few orders I have made will help the people live their lives a little more comfortably despite the difficult circumstances they are enduring. Story 12. An American colleague remarked that this whole situation was just an act by the White House and Zelensky. This person was not even a supporter of Trump but was independent. These individuals are so deeply influenced by Trump that they cannot see anything other than what he is feeding them. Story 13. Call your representatives and demand action in support of Ukraine. They control the budget, not the president. If they pass a law stating that we will continue providing aid to Ukraine, we will continue to do so. Story 14. Next time you have an election, vote for whoever the Democrats nominate, even if it is a woman. You never know. A woman might actually do a better job than a racist, homophobic, incompetent huckster. Story 15. Check if people in your area are holding a rally to support Ukraine and attend or organize one. People in Seattle are rallying on March 1st. Story 16. I just emailed the White House and shared my thoughts. Feel free to send yours. Story 17. Even if you are not American, you can still support Ukraine through donations, protests, and by encouraging your government to take action. Story 18. Complaining on Reddit can be beneficial. You might consider distancing yourself from other Americans and trying to convince Europeans that you are one of the good ones. You could participate in an economic boycott that has no real effect. You could also express how you feel ashamed to be an American. These methods seem to be gaining popularity. In all seriousness, consider joining the Ukrainian army and fighting on the front lines, as they are accepting foreigners. Story 19. General strike. It's time to take action. If Greece can organize a massive protest recently regarding train safety, then the United States needs to step up. Story 20. Call your representatives and senators and tell them your concerns. Repeat this action next week. Even if they seem unresponsive, your voice will eventually reach them. Then, make sure to support primary challengers next time. Story 21. I am protesting in front of our federal building in an hour. I am getting involved and using my spare time to participate in local protest groups, and will be working on the campaign of the Democrat who will challenge the senior Republican Senate incumbent in my state during the midterm elections. I saw Stevie Nicks in concert last year, and she performed Soldier's Angel as a tribute to Ukraine. She mentioned she was sad that she had to press it back into service. When I feel down, I listen to that song. There are Ukrainian flags in many windows in my neighborhood, allowing me to show my support, even if only as a sign that there are people here who abhor what is happening. Story 22. Donate directly to Ukraine. I donated $50. Story 23. I believe it is time for people to stop purchasing anything related to Donald Trump or the companies that support him. What we need is a comprehensive list of alternative products, from Google to Amazon to social media platforms to energy companies. The point is, these companies are complicit in allowing Trump to undermine America's future for their own profit. Do not forget that they played a role in creating this situation. They contributed to a system where he is unaccountable. They are partly responsible for the presence of unqualified individuals and those struggling with addiction in some of the world's most powerful agencies. Vote with your wallet, and then consider donating some of that saved money to Ukraine. There are children orphaned by this senseless war who could use a little cheering up. Story 24. See Vermont today with Vance. Every time any of these GOP leaders, cabinet members, senators, or Congress members appear, whether officially or in private, be there. Be there with Ukrainian flags and signs saying traitors. Remind them every hour of every day about what they are guilty of. Is it too much to ask? It's just a fraction of the fear the children of Ukraine have endured for 3 years. Story 25. I appreciate this question. Thank you for asking. Many people say they stand with Ukraine but do not understand that standing is a verb and action. If you want to support Ukraine, then take action. Call your representatives, donate, and buy Ukrainian products made in Ukraine by Ukrainians. Then, reach out to your representatives again. Story 26. Call the corporate backers that help elect your representatives and demand change. Alternatively, if you have the means, donate directly to Ukraine. Story 27. U.S. citizen here. Start recall campaigns for every Republican congressperson. Observe the economic blackout schedule. Story 28. My son was an army officer who trained Ukrainian soldiers. He has taken donated supplies, equipment, and uniforms there twice. As a family, we have donated money and gear and sponsored Ukrainian refugees. We have tried to do what we can. Now I need to figure out how to support the resistance here. Unfortunately, we do not seem to have a serious opposition party. Story 29. If you cannot afford to donate, consider writing to your Ukrainian friends and colleagues to show your support for their home country. Some may view this as insignificant, but it demonstrates that they are not alone, and it can positively impact the community's morale over time. Attend demonstrations in support of Ukraine and against Russian aggression. Display a Ukrainian flag in your window. Story 30. You can donate directly to the Ukrainian government. You can choose to send money to help rebuild Ukraine, support medical units, and provide drones. You can make a one-time donation or subscribe to a monthly donation. You can also subscribe to news outlets like the Kyiv Independent to promote their efforts in covering the war. Sending messages of support also matters. Story 31. Vote out all the spineless Republican senators and representatives in the midterms of 2026. Without Congress, Trump will be neutered and will be a lame duck. Story 32. Join the war effort. Put your keyboards away and give them the real help they need. Boots on the ground. Story 33. We all need to settle down. People are acting like they were there or even like they watched the 40-minute press conference or know about previous conversations they had. You don't see all the things that led up to this. Rubio defends Trump after clash with Zelensky. Story 34. There are many pro-Ukraine organizations taking money, from the main government hub to individual drone units. You can find many of them on Reddit communities like NAFO, Action for Ukraine, and Combat Footage. Some I have donated to since the first day of the full-scale invasion include u24.gov.ua, drones4ukraine.fund, help99.co, signmyrocket.com, ukrainefrontline.org, usukrainianactivists.org, protectivevolunteer.com. Story 35. This is beyond any wild dreams. The United States is bullying a country that has suffered greatly due to the actions of the Soviets. All United States presidents are being vocal, whether they are alive or not. This is no longer the United States. It has become Trumpland. Story 36. The official Zelensky-initiated site for donations to Ukraine is United24. I have seen it referred to as U24, but that led me to a different donation site. I am going to United24. Zelensky is a hero. He handled himself with courage and composure. It was clearly a setup. Trump lost control, and Vance was his obnoxious smirking self. A vice president hectoring a president? Total embarrassment. The two of them are betraying the Ukrainian people and us. Story 37. We can stop the identity politics that the ruling class uses against us, unite, and start a revolution to finally eliminate extremism from America. Story 38. How about you get on a plane and join the front line? You can go fight in the war. How about we send all of you who support Ukraine to Ukraine? How about we draft you? Many people want war until it's their life on the line. The Ukrainian president wants Americans to fight because he won't negotiate a peace deal with Russia. It's unreasonable. I agree with Trump on this one. When Zelensky is ready for peace, then we can talk. Story 39. The best support you can provide is by joining the Ukrainian Foreign Volunteer Army. More than money or weapons, Ukraine needs more people on the front lines. Story 40. Join the Ukrainian military to fight the Russians. You do not necessarily have to be on the front lines. They are looking for individuals in support positions as well. Story 41. They could have held their nose and voted to prevent this catastrophe from happening. I know many liberals who stayed home or voted for a protest party because they believed that all Democrats and Republicans were fundamentally the same. This is what happens when you surrender to fatalism. Story 42. Are you asking what to give to Ukraine? We have already provided them with $200 billion, and it is an ongoing conflict with more casualties on both sides. What do you propose will be different, or, heaven forbid, do you have a better solution? Story 43. I believe that if you support war, you should be on the front lines. If you are content with others losing their lives for a cause you believe in, stand beside them in solidarity. Giving money is good, but when one missile, which may not even hit a critical target, costs thousands of dollars, your $20 donation does not have a significant impact. Story 44. By getting on Reddit and expressing nonsensical ideas of the highest magnitude, don't forget to mention how you'd be willing to take up arms in the winter for Ukraine or donate your money to some random post in this community. That will show them. Story 45. I have donated to U24, but I used a fake name, a Visa gift card, and my local post office's address. I also activated my virtual private network to make that donation. This way, the idea is that my real name, physical address, and IP address, as well as my personal credit card number, will not be stolen by our current national security agency, Dogecoin, or any corrupted entity of our current regime in the United States. I trust nothing from this current government, including harsh punishments for supporting whatever the government deems enemies of the state at any given moment. It's about caution, mistrust, and, yes, a little paranoia. Story 46. You could work hard and personally support Ukraine. If you don't like Trump, the difference lies in the money being sent. You can still send your own money, but you cannot send mine. There are roughly 116 million supporters of Ukraine. To match the current level of aid we have sent, each person would need to contribute $2,500. This is the cost to maintain the current situation, not to achieve victory. For this amount, what you get is continued conflict with approximately 2,000 lives lost per week. Story 47. The majority of Americans support this administration. Many Americans who are embarrassed by recent events can book a flight to Ukraine to enlist in the fight against Russia instead of engaging in virtue signaling. Story 48. Pack your bags and get on the first flight to Ukraine. They need support, not money. Any financial aid you send will likely benefit Russia once Ukraine inevitably falls. Story 49. Tell your representatives that you won't vote for them if they support Putin. Encourage others to do the same. Congress is the best method to hold the executive accountable to the law. Many members are willing to condone the executive because they believe their voters will remove them if they fulfill their duties. If they were made to believe otherwise, they would be much more likely to take action. This would still make Vance president, which is not a significant improvement, but it would be a major step in restoring the rule of law and the Constitution. Story 50. I have been donating to various trusted organizations since the first day of the war, contributing $150 every month. The Kraken Regiment even sent me their flag with signatures of the heroes. No exaggeration, that Kraken flag is my most prized possession. Every dollar counts. Story 51. Be loud. Be very loud. Trump's state-sanctioned propaganda network will say there is nothing to see here, so show people it's okay not to support or comply. Be vocal by writing to your representative, reminding them that they are supposed to speak for you. Disrupt Vance's vacation, follow Trump around with a tuba, fly Ukrainian flags, and be visible. Story 52. The left 20 years ago defined war as making peace. The left now asks how to donate to more war while their leaders seek peace. Story 53. Are you serious? How about taking to the streets and demanding Trump's removal? Come on, USA, you've tried nothing and you're out of ideas. Story 54. This question is poorly veiled emotional manipulation that only the least discerning individuals would fall for. You could have asked this question in a more respectful manner. Story 55. For starters, put your efforts into action and engage directly. If fighting to regain lost territory is important to you, then help them achieve it. They clearly need support, not just resources. Story 56. You can volunteer for service in the Ukrainian military. They need more manpower. That is what real support looks like compared to virtue signaling. Story 57. Moving to Ukraine would be the ultimate support. I encourage anyone who wants to show their support for President Zelensky to relocate there. Story 58. You can vote in state and local elections this year, and for state, local, and federal offices next year and every year after. School boards, local judges, state election officials, and law enforcement officials, such as sheriffs, generally hold some combination of these elections each year. The only effective way at this point is to remove their power at every level. They have been quietly influencing elections at the state and local level for decades, and this is the result. Story 59. March over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. That's the only way to stop this. Story 60. You may want to consider registering to vote in the upcoming congressional and midterm elections. Give Trump a Democratic Senate and a Democratic Congress to work with. All of this is being brought to you and the rest of the world by 49.9% of the popular vote. Story 61. March 4th protests. Join in. If you do not see a major city near you, check your local newspaper or radio news website. Story 62. Protest, donate, and call your representative to express your embarrassment and disgust. 5 calls will connect you with your local representatives and provide a script to follow if you feel uncomfortable or unsure of what to say. Story 63. Have they considered not voting for the Republican Party? I believe Ukraine is just the tip of the iceberg regarding ineffective, harmful, embarrassing, and shameful policies. Story 64. I can assume most Americans are trying to figure out how to navigate what is happening in our country. Story 65. What Ukraine needs is able-bodied men to pick up weapons and fight. If you truly want to support Ukraine, you would favor sending American military forces or NATO troops. How many people support this? Money and weapons will not help. They need soldiers. Until the general public acknowledges what can turn the tide of war, all this is virtue signaling. The hard truth is that this will be an unwinnable war for Ukraine without full-scale military intervention from external forces. Short of this, a large petition for a United Nations peacekeeping force may be the next best option. At the very least, we should focus on stopping the shooting and killing first. Story 66. Book your ticket to the front line. They need all the help they can get because Russia is not following any agreement, even if it is signed in blood. Story 67. From observing the opposition, Democrats everywhere need to cover their cars with "Not My President" and "Make America Great Again" stickers, along with some tailgate raps featuring Trump bound and gagged in the back. Story 68. The best thing one can do is call your congressman and make it clear you will not vote for him or her again. It is the only thing they might understand. Then follow through. Make your priorities focus on American values of honesty, courage, and liberty rather than on divisive culture wars. Story 69. You might also ask your representatives in the Senate and Congress why, at every turn, they support only the wishes of the leader and Elon Musk, and not the people they were elected to represent. Story 70. Get off Reddit and go protest. Do you seriously think that Reddit threads and advice forums do anything? Sincerely, the rest of the world, who is desperately hoping you overcome your apathy and take action before it affects all of us. Story 71. I feel this way frequently as an American. It is horrific to abandon so many allies all at once, and Ukraine is truly fighting for their homes. However, I believe we need to address our own issues first. If you have money to spare, please support grassroots movements aimed at disseminating information to combat this situation. The majority of people, even those who previously supported Trump, are frustrated with the reality of this situation, but our mainstream media conceals it and keeps people silent. As long as we have a traitor in charge of the United States, that remains the biggest source of damage and the most effective action we can take. Story 72. Let's consider on a larger scale how many Americans are deeply troubled and embarrassed by the immature individual occupying the White House. Story 73. How can Americans help? You can get on a plane and volunteer to go to the front lines because Ukraine is facing overwhelming opposition. Short of that, you can express your support, which is what many people are doing. It may feel good, but it doesn't make a real difference. This entire war has had no positive outcomes or choices since it began, and each day the fewer viable options remain. Ukraine cannot win unless the United States involves its military directly. Ukraine is running out of fighting personnel. Unless you want to risk World War III, the current least problematic outcome is a negotiated settlement. The longer it takes to reach a settlement, the worse it is for Ukraine. Story 74. Remind people that Ukraine already had a decades-long support deal with the United States in exchange for giving up its nuclear weapons, and that Donald Trump went back on the deal twice, first by delaying aid sent to Ukraine during his first term and again during his second term by adding additional conditions for support after a deal was already in place. Combined with Trump blaming Ukraine for starting the war when Russia invaded it in the first place, there is little reason to trust the current American administration and its promises regarding the conflict. All Volodymyr Zelensky can do is hold the lines until the next US president comes into power and try to avoid making any suspicious deals with the current president. The minerals issue was a trap because Russia could just offer the same thing using the same minerals while taking the land, in exchange for Trump looking the other way. Story 75. Not much at all, but I bought a Ukrainian flag last night from a Ukrainian seller. During Christmas time, I purchased several vintage ornaments from Ukrainian sellers as well. I am boycotting as much as I can while Trump is in office. I know it's small, but it's all I can do at this time. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.